I put this handle on a very dry cup, and it was very wet when I put it on, and surprise, surprise, it cracked. Now there's a few methods you can use to fix it. You can try to fix the crack, or you can try to make it look like it was a tidy intention and not a messy mistake. Now you can do that by cleaning this up a little bit. You see there's kind of a natural line there. I'm just going to cut away part of that crack stuff, and as long as it's attached, oh, it's not attached. As long as it's attached to the mug, then I can sponge it, and it looks like a tidy intention. Now that handle did move a little bit. Chances are in the fire it would fill with glaze and not be a problem. You see, that kind of looks like you meant it that way. You don't have to tell everything to everybody all the time. So that's kind of a tidy fix for a messy crack. But this one up here, you can't have that one as a part of it. So you can use dry clay. I quite often will use a little bit of dry clay, and I'll moisten that just a bit and work some dry clay into there. But also vinegar works well. Now I have a little bit, as I have this dry clay here, and I use dry clay because it shrinks less than wet clay. But you can put a little bit of vinegar on this too, and sometimes that works. So it's kind of a combination of the vinegar and the clay. I put a little bit of vinegar in there. Now this clay is a little bit moist. What I've done with this clay is I've taken dry clay, the same clay body, and I rehydrated it with vinegar and not with water. And so I'm going to just try to fill that crack in with this clay, and I'm going to really cram it in there. Really work it so it goes down into that crack. And sometimes a vinegar clay will do it. Sometimes it'll fix it a little bit and it'll have a smaller crack and you can do it again. I'm going to sponge it. Whoa, that went well. So obviously, if it's this far down the path, I don't keep a cracked handle. Like, I wouldn't do that. Well, maybe we can fix it. Let's see if we can add vinegar to there. I would turf it. If something cracked that much when I was making it, well, one, I wouldn't attach that whatever handle to that dry of a pot, because you're just asking for the trouble you got now. So we can do that, put some of that vinegar clay in there, and we'll see if we can revive him, bring him back to the land of mugs. See, I did that on purpose so I could show you how to fix it. You believe that? Yeah, that's the ticket. This one we can make tidy again as the tidy intention. And this one we can blend in with the vinegar and the water. Now this time when I sponge it, I'll be a little less aggressive. He's delicate. But you notice when I put it on how deeply I scored it, and I put some of that vinegar clay in there and I scored it again, and I really wiggled it together. So I'm not going to take, you can take as much time now to tidy that. I would make it tidier. But I think, considering where we started from, if it stays attached, it's a good way to fix a mug, if it stays attached. Now the next one, this one I was making a cell phone amplifier, and it was too dry, and I bent it over and it cracked here. Now as I fix that one with the vinegar and the clay, you can do the same thing on this one, but when you're going to do that, you're going to make sure that you've got that completely cleaned out. You want to relieve all the stress, because what happened in this crack is it bent over, it's stressed. So if you try to push it back together, the stress is still there, if that makes sense. So we're just going to open that up, relieve all the stress. We're going to go past the crack and past the crack, and then we're going to work in some either that vinegar clay or the dry clay. You can try sometimes a mixture, both, what works for you. Now, to tell you the truth, when things crack for me, I don't keep them. But I was working on this video, and I wanted to show you how to fix things that crack. And I was having a heck of a time to get my stuff to crack. I did the prep for this one 2 or 3 times, and it didn't seem to crack. Now see how I've worked it into the back, how that crack is unstressed, if that makes sense. And I'm going to work that in there and sponge it off and make it tidy. Now sometimes that method will work, and I'm really rubbing that clay between my fingers into that crack. Sometimes this method will work. Sometimes it'll go through the bisque and look pretty good and show up in the glaze load. It's kind of up to the kiln gods. There seems to be a direct correlation between, if you really love this crack will be here forever. If you're indifferent, it'll fix every time. But as I said, it took me a while to get my stuff to crack. And I made something and it didn't crack, and made something else and it didn't crack. And I thought, well, why doesn't my stuff crack when the students do? And I think because when I work with clay, I work with very wet clay. Now this is a ball of very dry clay. I'm going to just try to make a pinch pot out of it. I'm going to stick my finger in and try to form a basic little pot. And you can see already, just in forming, that I'm getting cracks. And I'm getting a crack there. And I think these cracks are quite structural. They go quite deep. So if I were to dry this quickly, this would start to crack along that line. Well, I did in practice. Anyway, so I think it's really important. You can see on the top it has cracks. It's really important not to have your clay too dry. And a lot of times when people are first working with their clay, they tend to hang on to it. And they start sort of working it and squeezing it. And they like to connect to the clay. And it just keeps getting drier and drier. And again, I'm trying to make my pinch pot, and you can see I'm getting more and more cracks because I've really worked this clay. It's tired and it's cracked even before I get started. So I've got a ball of clay over here. I always keep my clay wet in a cloth when I'm sculpting or making handles or whatever. I always work with very wet clay. And quite often I will, if I'm going to be sculpting, the day I'm throwing, I will save clay from my throwing, the gouache I get off the wheel, the trimming and the making the pot shorter, and I will use that to sculpt with too. As you can see here, they're both pinch pots, both with the same method. This one is dry, this one is wet, this one is cracking, and I don't think you could stop that one. There's no help for that sculpture. But anyway, that's my attempt to tell you why I think your work might be cracking. Give it a go, soften your clay, slow your drying, and go for it. And have fun with it. And good luck. And just go crazy.
Thanks.
Thanks.